We're back, everybody. It's great to be here today. Christopher and Sara, life transformation and self-empowerment coaches with Soul and Wonder. And today we are going to be talking about dealing with that inner critic.
That little nagging voice that we all have. So obviously working in the personal development realm for as long as we have and going through our own healing processes, we have become best friends with that inner critic voice. But one thing that I want to get out of the way first, before we dive into how to quote unquote deal with it, is to reframe our perspective of this character in our life story. You know, when we hear negative self-talk or inner critic, we immediately shame it as if it's this horrible entity that's possessing our lives, and we try to bypass it by sweeping it under the rug and just thinking happy thoughts and telling ourselves beautiful, powerful affirmations, which doesn't actually get to the root of the issue, and shaming the inner critic just makes it act out even more, desperately trying to get your attention because, big surprise, the inner critic is just as valuable and important in your healing journey as any other part. It just has a different way of expressing itself.
What is it trying to tell you that you may not be looking at? And that's what we're going to kind of get into, because I know, speaking from my own experience dealing with my inner critic, it's been a wild ride of twists and turns and ups and downs. And really, always, I guess, where I was coming from in the past was trying to tame it or fix it.
Or make it go away.
Or make it go away and banish it to the shadow. But of course, that keep popping up, and it would come back with a vengeance every single time. So
it's like the voice gets even louder.
It's dialed up.
The language gets even more harsh.
Yep, absolutely.
You have to first have awareness of what your inner critic even sounds like.
Absolutely.
Which you were touching on, you know, noticing that the volume of the voice is strengthening or the language of the voice is more harsh. That is a positive thing, because you're able to say, okay, I'm seeing this happening right now. I'm hearing this in my head. I'm hearing it coming out of my mouth. This is beautiful. This means awareness. And that's the first step to anything.
Absolutely. Just cultivating that understanding that it's there, it's happening, whether it's in the foreground or background, but that we can allow the space for us to be able to communicate with this character in the play that we can communicate with and interact with, but it's the way we interact with it.
As soon as we shame it, it turns it into an even more rebellious entity or part of our internal community. We like to refer to these parts of us as a character in our internal community. And all of these beings are important and just as valuable as the next. It's just easier to like the pleasant ones more so than the unpleasant ones. But what we have to remember is that the unpleasant characters in our wise counsel, our internal community, are only unpleasant because of the judgments we've passed on them, separating them from our wholeness, and therefore they act up to get our attention. So it's all about shadow integration. And some of you might be sitting here thinking like, okay, Chris and Sara, this sounds like bullshit. How am I supposed to use something as horrible as my inner critic to help me heal? How is this something beneficial for me when all it does is drag me down and make me feel like shit and tell me I'm ugly and awful and just the horrible things that we think about ourselves? This is where we want to challenge you to open your mind, shift your perspective. So first and foremost, we talked about increasing your awareness of the voice of your inner critic. And if you're familiar with our one-on-one coaching, if you've worked with us in group coaching or any of our digital courses, then you know that we have our own favorite process to guide you specifically through the moment as you're experiencing that negative self-talk. But we're going to give you kind of a brief rundown of how you can use this inner critic to really benefit you in that moment right now in this video. First and foremost, the voice of the inner critic is the best voice to help you identify unmet needs. We have motivations behind everything we do. Every action, every thought, every feeling, there's a motivation behind it. And those motivations are powered by, as we've talked about before, our core values and our needs and desires. And when we're living in alignment with our core values, it's great because our needs and desires are also in alignment with that. But sometimes we're not. And so we get this like chaotic soup of life where we're confused and don't really understand why we do what we do and why we think the thoughts that we think.
Well, and that's probably why you're going to hear a lot of us, or both of us, say in many of these videos, if not all of them, in talking about values, because that is the first step. Because by going into those areas and finding out what means the most to us, what are our driving forces, we can then identify what's going on in the background and where we can bring both of those worlds together.
And above those values, that layer is needs. We have needs. It's okay to have needs. You're a human being. I know we like to try to pretend that enlightenment means that we don't have any needs or desires, but we're experiencing this human life for a reason. So let's experience it. And negative self-talk, when that comes up, it's trying to guide you to the place within you that you're feeling out of control. You're not able to meet the needs that you actually have. These needs are sometimes hard to uncover. So what we like to do and what we like to help people do is to first uncover the needs behind, one, the action, and then two, the negative self-talk. So I have a beautiful example with a client of ours that we worked with before. She was starting her fitness journey, and one of the things that she wanted to do was record herself, a snippet of her doing a fitness routine, and put it on Instagram. And immediately she looked at the video and said, nope, not going to put that out there for the public to see. She was telling herself she was not pretty enough, she wasn't slim enough, she wasn't all the inner critic things that you are not good enough, right? So she never posted the video. Now, what I helped her do in that moment was to first get clear on her motivations for wanting to post the video to begin with. What needs was she trying to meet by sharing the video? For her in that moment, the needs that came out were motivation, she wanted to inspire others, and self-accountability. Now, I challenged her to go a little bit deeper. I said, if there were needs underneath those needs, what do you think they would be? And she sat with it for a moment, and it hit her that she wanted some love, she wanted support, she wanted encouragement. So what she thought she was doing it for were valid, but that there were even more motivational factors underneath it. Helping her get in touch with those unmet needs allowed her to sit with it for a moment, allowed her to see that it's okay to want love and support, it's okay to want to inspire and motivate people, and it helps her to just increase the awareness of those needs. But then we want to use the inner critic. The inner critic is valuable here. She didn't post the video, and I'm sure some of you have been there before. I know I've been there before. And I asked her if the inner critic was trying to meet a need by interrupting you, telling you all the things that it said that drove you to not post the video, what would that be? And this is when it really hit her that the inner critic was guiding her to a place within herself that desperately wanted to increase the volume and capacity of her self-love, her self-image. Here she was wanting to inspire and motivate other people, but she was stopping herself because she didn't love herself enough to do so. She didn't have the confidence enough to do so. And just by hearing that voice and saying, what was this trying to show me? Sure, it came out in a pretty mean way, but when she realized it was guiding her to that place that said, hey, you're lacking some self-love here. You're not feeling confident. You're not feeling the way that you want to inspire other people to feel. And if you're not feeling that way, how can you motivate and inspire other people to feel that way?
Well, and it's really what's happening at that point is that the soul is wanting to come out and to be seen fully. And so at first, we have this, I guess, darker type of figure that is driving our lives, but really underneath that is the light that is wanting to emerge. And what that comes down to is moving into that darkness to come into the light.
It's your way shower. It's a guiding force. And, some people might be saying, well, what was the point of such a negative voice to begin with? He said it best himself. But, in this person's situation, she wasn't aware of the fact that her self-love was depleted. She wasn't aware of the fact that she hadn't filled up her cup to be able to be what she wanted to be for others. And that negative self-talk, the more she ignored it, the louder it would get, the meaner it would get, because the darkness and the light are working together.
What we need to look at is that everything in our life is a teacher. Whether we view it as light or whether we view it as dark, it's still a teacher for us to really grow into our potential and grow into our true selves. And when we can approach it from that situation, the voice, and we're talking about the inner critic at this moment, will kind of dial back just a little bit, because again, it's being integrated. So if we can approach it as everything is here to teach us, then we are in a really great position in our personal growth journey.
She created awareness around her needs. She had an emotional breakthrough at that moment when she even identified and admitted those unmet needs. And from that, she was able to really feel it in her body. She was able to make the connection on such a profound level that she could create positive action steps to meet the needs of self-love, to meet the needs of confidence, self-care, motivation, inspiration, all of those beautiful needs that she uncovered just by doing this quick, simple process. It was so powerful, and I remember feeling so moved by her experience. And you know what she did? She created an action step. In that moment, she said, I'm not only going to post the video that I was going to post, but I'm going to post the video with a description on how I was too afraid to post the video, and share her realization of her inner critic and what it did for her.
Vulnerability at its finest.
Vulnerability at its finest. I just got chills, because that is the power of using the darkness to bring you into the light. And guess what happens over time? That inner critic voice, as she meets those needs of self-love and confidence, etc., that inner critic's voice no longer has to speak up the way that she's used to hearing it. The language starts to dial down into something a little bit more subtle, a little bit more friendly. And we've had a client in the past who asked, does the inner critic ever go away? I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know if the inner critic ever goes away completely. But I can speak from personal experience, and I can probably speak for you as well, that the frequency of the inner critic decreases over time of meeting these needs, transforming limiting beliefs, and the language of it changes as well.
Well, and we're on this journey with you guys, and we're experiencing some of the things that you may be experiencing as well, and we're just here to move through that with you. And so these answers, our perspective, everything, it will evolve over time. And as we continue to do more videos like this, everything, our perspective will constantly be shifting. And so it's such a wonderful journey to be on with you guys, and we really appreciate you following us along this path.
And I just want to challenge you, next time that inner critic voice shows up, instead of saying, oh, no, 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 don't think negative thoughts, go away, go away, go away, instead of just reciting your positive affirmations, I want to challenge you to pause, tune in, ask yourself those questions. What needs are you trying to meet? And even talking out loud to the inner critic, saying, hey, dude, I can see you're trying to get my attention. What would you like to show me? Believe it or not, answers will come very, very quickly as well. Give yourself that time, give yourself that space, and let us know how it goes for you. If you follow this, same process of identifying unmet needs and creating positive action to help you meet those needs, giving yourself that power back, comment on this video. Let us know your experience. Let us know your breakthroughs. I always will say, anytime you think you've uncovered the need, go a little deeper. There's probably one waiting for you underneath it. It's layers. So we're here for you. We're really excited for your journey. Keep us updated.
And make sure you subscribe by clicking that button below for more videos like this and other delicious content.